Leaving Manchester United, it's deal done time there. Ligt has made a demand and chosen Manchester United. Also, a twist on Agate's transfer to Manchester United. Mason Greenwood is getting impatient. What did you think of Luke Shaw's return for England yesterday? Harry Maguire has been told to leave Manchester United. We've also got an update on Joshua Zirkzee and also a few other bits as well. There's a lot to get into on the show this morning, and we're going to delve into it and we're going to get your thoughts and mine on all of it. It's the Sunday morning show on the United Stand with all your latest transfer news. Get involved. And funnily enough, we're going to start off with a classic from Fletch in the live chat who says, Mark's book costs more than Donny van der Beek has gone to Girona for. I think that's a classic, and I think it's a great one. Don't forget to order the book, by the way. We'll talk more about that later. If you're going to get the book, please order it now, because it'd be great to get into the new releases list before it even comes out. It would be a real up yours to the mainstream, which is what we like. But look, we've got loads to talk about. It's Sunday morning. Sunday morning in the UK, you get a lot of news stories coming out. Obviously, there's no Euros for a few days. Could this be a massive week for Manchester United? I think it could be. I also think there is a bit of a wake-up call that it might not be as well. I think there's a really big clue. It could be a quiet week on incomings, but it might not be a bad thing. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's hit the breaking news here. So I want to talk about Donny van der Beek, but the latest on Ligt, we've literally had a drop from Fabrizio Romano this morning in relation to Ligt. And what he's saying is, and it's only just come out in the last hour, is that personal terms with Ligt are not going to be a problem. Manchester United are now on the negotiation stage for the fee with Bayern Munich, which will include add-ons, and also Ligt is not willing to talk to anybody else. He's chosen Manchester United as his destination. So now we're in a position where this deal happens. I mean, I'm not one for guesswork. You know, if I find information that it's deal done, like we did with Rasmus and we've done with other ones, you'll get it. But if you want a firm guess, I'm saying that this deal happens. I mean, what stops it at this point? The player only wants to come to us. Bayern Munich want to sell. We're very, very deep in them conversations with Bayern Munich. What stops this deal from happening? De Ligt's spoken to the board at Manchester United. He's spoken to Ten Hag. He knows the project. He wants that project. Look, I'll put my hands up and say, it's sad when you're watching the Dutch and De Ligt can't even get on the pitch. De Vrij actually scored yesterday. Van Dijk's the other centre-back partnership. Van der Ven gets on the pitch. Of course there are concerns. We're not buying a top 10 centre-back in the world. We're buying a centre-back that should be a top 10 centre-back in the world and could be a top 10 centre-back in the world, but isn't currently. The potential is there. If I'd said to you how good is De Ligt halfway through last season, we'd be having the same conversation we're having now. He should be a top 5 centre-back in the world, but for some reason isn't in the top 10 at the moment. So that potential is there to be there. Let's hope that Man United are going to deliver that, because we can't afford a top 5 centre-back in the world. So if we can buy somebody that's fell off a little bit and take them there, that's sort of where we are. I'm comfortable with that. As I said, we finished 8th last year. We never, ever fight for the title. Some people seem to think we can buy the best centre-back in the world and go from 8th to 1st. We're going to go from 8th to 4th. And I think people like De Ligt are perfect for that journey. And in 3 years' time, when we're established Champions League side and we have money, maybe we go, right, we've used De Ligt for what we need to. He can only take us to 3rd. We now need one that takes us to 1st. That is part of the journey that I think some people do not realise what Ineos are talking about. We might need players that are better than what we've got at the moment to take us to the level where maybe Liverpool are. And then when we're there for a few years, we maybe bring better players in to take us where Man City are. It's not going to happen overnight, is my point. De Ligt is a leader as well, says Dazzo. Look, I'm very excited about it. I'm very happy that he's chosen us. And I think with De Ligt, this deal is really going to happen very, very quickly. What's happening with it is that we're just going to agree a fee with Bayern Munich. And that sort of leads into everything else. Add-ons are going to be the big thing in this summer transfer window. I think a lot of clubs are doing it. I think it's the right way to go. I said yesterday, and I had a lot of good feedback about this, when you're knocking on the door of Everton for Branthwaite, and when you're knocking on the door of Benfica for Neves, and they're saying, we want 70 million up front, or we want 100 million up front, and then you go, well, let me tell you a story. How many players get bought in their early 20s for massive money and flop? A lot. How's about you get real on add-ons? Because If I'd tried to sell Marcus Rashford at 21, I'd have got £100 million for him. Look at what he is at 26. Maybe if someone was going to buy Marcus Rashford for £100 million at 21, they should be giving us 60 with add-ons, because that's intelligent. Can the player hit the add-ons? It doesn't make sense anymore to give Everton 60 million for Branthwaite, or to give Benfica 100 million for João Neves. It's common sense, and the transfer market needs that reset. I know Man United and I can't dictate it, but it's what it needs. There are so many if, buts and maybes. I mean, look at Saka. Saka, amazing player. I wish he was playing for Man United. Misses a penalty with Rashford and Sancho a couple of years ago. Look at what his career's done. 2 title races in a row, winning games for England to put them in the semi-final last night. Look at where Sancho is on holiday. Look at where Rashford is, 2 bad seasons in 3. So, you know, it's not just about talent. You can't project what's going to happen. You can look at personality, you can look at mentality, you can look at leadership, but you can't project. I think add-ons are going to be really important. Anyway, let's move on from De Ligt, because there's a lot to get into in the show. He's a good replacement for Varane, says Slow Sports News. I bought a signed copy. And a good morning from Ireland, says Brendan. Thank you very much for ordering the book. You're an absolute legend, mate. In fact, I will just signpost that by putting it up next to me. You can go scan through the QR code and get that book ordered today on a Sunday. That would be really appreciated. The signed copies are going quite quickly. We only signed 1,000 and about 800. No, not that many. About 600 have gone already, so they could be gone by the end of the month. David B says, I'm over the moon with De Ligt. He has the potential to be a behemoth of a centre-back. Behemoth. I can't do that word. So much to get into. We've got an update on Agate. We've got an update on Greenwood. Harry Maguire has been told to leave by Dan Ashworth and Eric Ten Hag. That's coming out this morning from Mullock in the Mirror. Let's talk about Donny van der Beek. This story may be breaking news to some of you. You may have picked up on it. Basically, 4:30 last night, Fabrizio Romano puts this out, that Donny van der Beek has reached an agreement with Girona, and he will be leaving to go to Girona for about £500,000. It gets better. No, it genuinely gets better. But it comes out at 4:30, where I'm on That's Football with a can in my hand, about to watch England in a quarter-final, and I think the rest of the world is as well. So nobody's really spoken about this Donny van der Beek deal. Not many journalists have wrote about it. There's not been much content about it at all, because last night was all about the Euros. The Dutch going through as well. Uruguay beating Brazil on penalties as well is going to be interesting with Agate, because again, that's a week gone. You're not signing Agate now until the week after next at the earliest, because they have a 3rd, 4th place playoff. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But anyway, Donny van der Beek. So £500,000, he goes to Girona. He will play Champions League football, says Martin Netters. He will. Thanks everyone who's getting involved this morning. So this deal for De Ligt sort of came from nowhere, and it is Girona, owned by Man City as well. Girona are part of the Man City group, so I thought that was quite surprising that we're giving a player to a Man City club, really. But look, somebody said it yesterday on our watch along on That's Football. Donny van der Beek needs to go. It's great news, but also Donny van der Beek's career fall off needs to be a documentary on Netflix. You know, it can't always be Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, and what a great story. Sometimes you've got to look at the fall off. This was a guy I remember me and Fabrizio talking about on this channel 6 months before we bought him. Neither of us had any indication we were going to buy him, and we were both saying, oh, I'd love him at Man United. And then it happened, and it was like, oh my God. I remember how excited Fabrizio was. And Real Madrid were looking at him. I just don't get it. He's got to go. But there'll never be a part of me that thinks that Donny van der Beek wasn't a good signing. I genuinely thought he was going to be a really good signing. And the fall off, I just don't get it. I don't get the fall off on Van der Beek. And this deal for Man United, as we just quickly look over it, I mean, he's only just 27. I mean, he has lost a lot of years, but he's only just 27. So basically what happens is he doesn't walk in tomorrow at Carrington with his boots under his arm, which is great news. I mean, that would have... I like Donny, I like Sancho, but I don't want to see them walking into Carrington with their boots. It's just, that's not what Ineos want either. They want to look forward. They don't want to be looking back. So he will go to Girona. the deal could go from £500,000 transfer fee to about 3.5 based on appearances this season. There is also the potential for it to become more than that. There are more add-ons that could take it to about £10 million, and there is a sell-on clause as well. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, the guy is on about 150 grand a week, and that is a lot of money for Manchester United that we're going to remove, that somebody else is going to take. It's a permanent deal. It's not a loan deal. The transfer fee is crap. Of course it is. But obviously, that is a player off our roster permanently. And what I'm going to say here is we cannot be hypocrites. The fee is a joke. He probably won't hit the add-ons, if we're being honest. And if he does, we get about 3 million. And if he does really well, we get about 10 million. And if he does really, really well and goes to another club, we'll get a percentage of that. But things have got to go ridiculously well for us to get anywhere near £10 million out of this Donny van de Beek deal, and it's not going to come in now. But how many times have we said, in relation to the Deadwood, we just need to write it off? And if we're completely honest with ourselves, let's not blame Ineos. They didn't do this deal in the first place. And let's not blame Ten Hag. He didn't sign Donny van de Beek. So if we're looking to apportion blame, it probably lies with whoever bought him. Was it Ed Woodward? I don't think Solskjaer necessarily wanted him because he didn't use him, although Solskjaer did sign it off. The Glazers, of course, and the player himself has got to look at himself. And I like Donny and I wish him all the best, but it's just not gone well. And what we're doing there is we are quite clearly getting rid of the Deadwood. We're getting rid of the player for next to no money, but it's another wage off the bill. And it's £500,000. And I think Donny van de Beek's been here long enough that the loss on FFP is minimal, really. So he had to go. He couldn't be coming back playing pre-season games. You'd be better off taking a 16-year-old from the youth team and playing them in midfield in pre-season because it doesn't matter. So I think it's about as good as it was going to get. There will be some bad deals this summer, and that is a bad financial deal, but I'm actually quite positive about it. And of course, I think with Donny van de Beek, we all wish him all the best. Hi, Mark. Van de Beek's career was so mismanaged and ruined by us, and I feel sorry for him. There's definitely a player there. Well, let's hope, Raffo, that he can hit that. Up the banner, says Cyril. I think it was the manager's breaking his spirit because he was good, but never going to get going for huge lack of games, says Igshan. Well, I think if anybody broke his spirit, it was the Ollie era, wasn't it? You know, you come in on a big move and then you feel like you're a stranger and you're not wanted. Rub says, morning, everybody. Morning, Rub. I feel like we're having the same summer as we've had in the past, just that we are putting lipstick on a pig because we have new owners, says Joe. Interesting take. Do you agree with that? Sean says, what were your thoughts on Luke Shaw getting minutes against Switzerland? We are going to talk about that, Sean. It's on the list. If we sell Sancho and Greenwood, we will need to invest in a winger. Should we look at Chiesa, says Avanash. Look, a lot of you yesterday quite liked the idea of that. So, you know, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see about that. Brendan says he's bought a signed copy of the book. Yeah, we've done that one. Thank you. Get yours today. And Harvey says 13.7 million off the wage bill. De Ligt will cost around 16 million a year. Happy days, in my opinion. I don't think he's on that much, Harvey. I mean, I don't want to do quick maths, but he was on about 150 grand a week, which is 300 grand every fortnight, which is £600,000 every month, which you times by 10. Yeah, it's less than 10 million a year, but it's still a saving. It is still a saving, you're right. Let's talk about, we've spoken about De Ligt, we've spoken about Donny. Let's talk about Harry Maguire, actually. This is a story that's coming in this morning, and it's coming in from the Mirror. The Sunday Mirror is quite good for updates, actually. The Mirror have always been quite close in the Eric Ten Hag era to what's going on around sort of Ten Hag. Their chief football writer, Simon Mullock, has put an article out this morning, and it says that Harry Maguire's Manchester United career looks all but over after calls from Eric Ten Hag and Dan Ashworth. The England defender has seen his future grow increasingly uncertain over recent seasons. He was stripped of the captaincy last year and has seen his opportunities dwindle. And now he could see his minutes decrease even more. Man United are committed to bringing in new centre-backs. Mirror Football understands that Ten Hag has already held talks with his compatriot De Ligt. I was told that he is seen as a new defensive rock to build the side around. So effectively, what you've got here is that Dan Ashworth and Erik Ten Hag have basically laid it out in front of Harry Maguire what the situation is. We don't need to say, get out of our club, Donny van der Beek. We don't need to say, get out of our club, Jadon Sancho. We can do that, but we don't need to do that. Because, really, if I set up a poll here, should we sell Maguire? Yes or no, right? I don't know which way that's going to go. But I look at it like this. If I'm Harry Maguire, I've had a good run at Manchester United. At sometimes, some people would say too long. Some people would say mixed bag. Some people would say predominantly a bad signing who's had a couple of half-decent seasons. Whatever, right? He's had the dream. He got a 6-year contract on 190 grand a week, and God knows why. He's been here for 5 years. 5 years he's been at Man United. He's been England's, number one centre-back with John Stones in that time. He's had a good run. Everything's caved in. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and he is not going to be the starting centre-back next season because if everything goes to plan, we won't have the injury crisis again that opened the door for him last season. And also, we're bringing in players that suit the Ten Hag system. So he's going to end up third or fourth choice centre-back. He's lost his England place through injury, and the World Cup is in 2 years. I don't think Harry Maguire, if you know anything about him, is the sort of player that just goes, I've had a good run, that's it. I think Harry Maguire is the sort of guy that looks at that England team and goes, they're crap on set pieces. I'm still the best centre-back in the country on set pieces. They never look like they're going to score from a corner. They don't defend crosses very well. This is my thing. I've still got 2 years left in me. I want to go to the World Cup with England. I definitely want to be part of that squad fighting for my place. Okay, I've lost my place at the moment, but I definitely am in the top 4 centre-backs in the country, and I want to be in that squad in September. If he wants to do that, he's got to be playing first-team football. Manchester United have basically closed the door on him again for the second summer in a row. You're not the captain last summer. You're not in the first-choice centre-back pairing. Yes, he got back in because of injuries, but that was told to him. He's being told it again. Can he have that season again where the England manager is picking him when he's not getting picked? Can he have that season again where the players in front of him get injured and the chance presents him? Can he be in that position at his age? And I think the answer is no. I think Harry Maguire is intelligent enough to know he can go to a number of Premier League clubs and start and be in that England squad in September. And I think that's what will happen. So I don't think this is about get out of our club. I think this is about an honest conversation between Dan Ashworth and Harry Maguire about his future. The next big thing is, where does he go? Because I think he's probably worth about 20 million, 25 million now. And it's about where he goes. If he digs his heels in and stays, I don't think he's the player I think he is. I think he's just writing off his career, and he's not going to please anybody. I think he will go. I mean, he was very close to going with West Ham last year, and that was United's fault. So, look, I'm not massively surprised about that. Also in the Mirror, it says that Mason Greenwood is growing increasingly frustrated and wants his future resolved this week. Lots and lots of speculation about Mason Greenwood. Some people are talking tomorrow that something will be announced because Man United are back in training tomorrow. But Mason Greenwood himself, understandably, is getting a little bit frustrated because pre-season training starts for a lot of clubs over the next week, and he wants to be part of that. Man United haven't sorted a deal out yet. Obviously, last year he missed pre-season because of all the furore going on around whether he was coming back to Man United or not. So I would expect to see, I would almost say that I think the first deal is Donny van der Beek, isn't it? That will be official early this week, according to Fabrizio, but that's going to happen. I think De Ligt's going to happen, but I think that maybe Greenwood will be the first official deal. I don't see any reason why that doesn't get done quickly. Patrick Lynch says, not every player meets the standard required for a top team. Most players aren't. If United want to be a top team, some of these players need to go, says Patrick. Exactly. Colin Bolger is gifted a membership. You're a legend, Colin. Thank you very much for doing that. What other centre-back are we looking at? Is it just Todibo and Branthwaite, says Paul? Well, you've got De Ligt, you've got Branthwaite, Todibo looks unlikely, and then I wouldn't be ruling out people like Guehi, maybe Bremer at Juventus. There are plenty of centre-backs out there that United could be looking at. We should have sold Almiron after his purple patch, says Biggin. Newcastle fan. Ian Edwards says, I love the show, Mark. Call me crazy, but I have a weird feeling we're going to see 6, possibly 7 ins this summer. How many, honestly, do you think? I'd love a poll, says Ian. Well, I'll do a poll for you. What's your expectations from Mount this season, says Avanish? Look, on the one hand, Mason Mount needs to absolutely tear it up. We spent £55 million on him, and he's on £250,000 a week, and he's skirted under the radar, and we demand more, and you've got the number 7 shirt on your back. We can't be messing about with Mason Mount anymore. You know, he's a nice lad. He seems to like being at Man United, but you've been here a year, mates. It's time to stop smiling and do some bloody work. So that's the harsh reality. The real reality from me is the first thing we need from Mason Mount is for him to stay fit. Like, it's all right saying demand this, demand that, and I get it, but we need him to stay fit, first of all. Like, he had pre-season looking good really doesn't matter. Pre-season's great to watch because it's the excitement of the start of a new season. You know, it's the early hours of the morning if you're in the UK or Europe watching a game. It's great. I love the pre-season, but it's all about beating Fulham and it's all about the momentum into the first few weeks of the season. We need Mason Mount to stay fit. That's the first requirement because last season was ridiculous, wasn't it? Ineos need to make a call on Mason Greenwood now, says Sanil. Either rip his contract, bring him back, or sell him. And 13 point, you've done that one from Harvey. How many signings do I think we'll do, says Ian? I think we've got to do 6 or 7. Anything less than that, I'd be disappointed. There's got to be 2 centre-backs, a midfielder and a striker, which is 4. We definitely need a left-back, which is 5. I still would like a winger and a right-back, which is 6 and 7. And I wouldn't mind another midfielder. Brendan says, I understand selling Rashford, but Bruno, who will replace him if he goes? What if he is nowhere near close to Bruno quality, says Brendan. Thank you very much for that. 87% of you would cash in on Harry Maguire, by the way. How many centre-backs do you think we need for a new season, says Nick? We definitely do need 2. Right, it doesn't stop. We've got more news. Come on. Let me give you an update on Zirkzee. Let me give you an update on Ugarte. So on Zirkzee, Fabrizio Romano basically put out a holding tweet yesterday. Some people reacted to it like it was breaking news. I can't believe these people actually run outlets because they must have their head up their arse. It wasn't even an update from Fabrizio. It was just about where we are, which is where we were a few days ago. And some people are running it like it's breaking news. What Fabrizio said is that Manchester United are continuing talks with Zirkzee's agent and that Erik ten Hag has spoken to Zirkzee several times on the phone. United are discussing whether they proceed with the 40 million release clause, which is valid until August. There is nothing in there that we don't know. And Fabrizio has retweeted that again because that is where you got to understand what Fabrizio does. If it goes quiet on a deal that's being worked on for 4 days, he'll put out where it's at just to keep it in the, what's happening. Because people are like, what's happening with Zirkzee? So he always gets that in his replies. If he puts a tweet out about Chelsea buying a centre-back, there'll be replies saying what's happening with Zirkzee. So what he's done for the last couple of years is he will put out like a holding tweet, an update, as to what's happening, but it might not be much of an update. So where we are with Zirkzee is that we've done the personal terms, really. It's all about when the deal gets announced, if the deal gets announced. And there's nothing really to report on Zirkzee. What we know is that the Netherlands are into the semi-final of the Euros next Wednesday against England. And it's highly likely that we don't do anything before that. Now, we did get a bit of a cameo from Zirkzee last night. He's a big lad, isn't he? I don't know whether it's the orange shirt, but he looked massive. And I've seen him play for Bologna, and I know he's well over 6'2", but he did look massive. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way, but I'm just saying he's big. He is somebody that, we need to utilise him if we bring him in, because that level of height, you can get rid of McTominay if you play him in the starting lineup. Like, you've got your height to defend corners there. It is a positive. We don't actually have that many tall players. So, if he's in the starting lineup, whether he's playing off the wing or up front, you stick him on corners on the front post, it's another big player. So he is big. But McZirkzee, says Zemish. But I don't definitely know, but I think with Zirkzee, nothing. We're just waiting for the decision, and I feel that Koeman is the sort of manager of the Netherlands that is not letting anybody in that team do deals. Van Gaal was the same in the last World Cup. Was Van Gaal in the last World Cup, or was it was the last World Cup? No, the last Euros, wasn't it? Because was that Timber. I get mixed up. 2 years ago, what was happening in the summer? How does that work? 2 years ago, we were looking at Timber, and Van Gaal was like, no talks while he's part of the international setup. But there wasn't a tournament 2 years ago. Maybe it was like international friendlies or something. It must have been friendlies. But the Dutch, I think the way the Dutch are working is they're not letting players do transfer stuff because it wasn't the Winter World Cup. It was the summer. It was the summer 2 years ago. Because it was when Erik ten Hag took over. I know I get things wrong. It was 2 years ago when Erik ten Hag took over, and it was late May, early June, and Van Gaal was talking about Timber, and he was like, well, we're not doing any transfers while he's part of this Dutch get-together. And it was definitely 2 years ago, because it was when Ten Hag came into the club, so it would have to be internationals. It would not be the World Cup or the Euros, because it was definitely 2 years ago. Dorian, welcome to the Members Club. If we miss signings, will we go for them in January? I think it's way too early to talk about that, Nick. It's still only July the 7th. Maybe it was the Nations League. Yeah, it wasn't the Winter World Cup. I mean, this is what I have to put up with. There are people in the chat saying it was the Winter World Cup. There are people in the chat saying it was the Euros. What about your brain doesn't register that it was when Ten Hag took over in the May, which was 2 years ago, and Timber was a player that we were looking to buy, and Van Gaal came out and said, well, there won't be any transfer talk while he's with me and the Dutch squad. So it was clearly at the end of May and in early June, and it was clearly Nations League or Dutch internationals at the end of the season. Soon be Christmas. Anyway, so you made me lose my point. No, I think that maybe the Dutch, because it's quiet with Frimpong as well, what Dutch player at the moment has done a transfer? No one. So I think that until the Dutch go out, we probably don't get anything done with Zirkzee. Which leads us on to Ugarte, who last night was playing for Uruguay against Brazil. So the injury wasn't bad, which is great news. They beat Brazil on penalties. Bielsa ball. They've knocked Brazil out of the Copa America. We haven't got any Brazilian players because Casemiro didn't get called up and Anthony didn't, so there's no impact on us. But Uruguay will play in the semi-finals mid next week, but also they have a third and fourth place playoff next weekend. So Uruguay are playing football for another week. So Ugarte, if you're signing Ugarte, it's not going to be here we go next week. And if you sign Ugarte, he is not going to be on the US tour. He is going to be coming to Manchester United in early August. So we do need to look at that sort of thing now, because we are in a position where we know Kobbie Mainoo is not going to go on the US tour because he's through. Luke Shaw's not going to go on the US tour because he's through. Zirkzee, Ligt won't be going on the US tour because they're through to the semi-finals. Ugarte the same. If we bought Frimpong, the same. We know the teams now that are basically at the end of the Copa America and the Euros, and if you were competing in that, you weren't going to be part of the US tour, and your pre-season with Man United isn't starting until the start of August, which still means they can play against Fulham. Like, if they're back at the start of August when we get back from the tour, I think the first all-together training session is the Wednesday or the Tuesday before the Community Shield on the Saturday. So all those players will be available for Fulham, but you can't do anything about that. I've got no problem with that. I mean, obviously I would love Kobbie Mainoo and Luke Shaw and all our new signings to be turning up at Carrington tomorrow and having a month with Ten Hag, but I don't think there's a club in world football that's going to have that situation going on, because good players play for their country. But yeah, Ugarte, there's the potential that next week could be a quiet week with players coming in, because if I said to you, who are we actually going to sign next week? De Ligt is still with the Dutch squad. Zirkzee is still with the Dutch squad. Agate is still with the Uruguay squad. Who are we signing next week? And people might start to panic, but I would still say, yes, it would be nice to have people holding up the shirt, but what can you do about it? Nothing. They're playing for their national teams. And also, even if they did, they're still not going to be training with us for another month. So there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. These players will not be training for Man United for another month anyway. So here we go, official. It's sort of like, I don't want to say it because it will panic everybody, but what if we don't do here we go official till early August with those 3 players? We will, of course we will, but it's just the players that we're looking at the moment that are more gettable are all playing international football. I mean, look, Branthwaite, will we see a development on that? Will we see Man United move on a João Neves because he's not part of the Euros anymore? Will we see United look at other players? I mean, we do need a right back. We do need a left back. We've definitely been focusing on those 3, but maybe we focus on other signings at the moment. I don't know. And certainly with outgoings, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Mason Greenwood, Jadon Sancho, those 5 players. Donny's already gone. Eriksen as well. Donny's gone. You know, there's 7 players there that are not playing international football that we can start to move on, and that's massively part of this summer transfer window as well. Maybe Marcus Rashford, as the chat is saying, maybe Marcus Rashford's back tomorrow. I mean, I don't for 1 minute think he's going anywhere. And I'll tell you what's quite interesting as well. Did you see Jadon Sancho's Instagram post about Saka saying you did that for us or something like that? And I thought, what a nice post. And then I thought, you're a professional footballer, Jadon. Why is Saka doing that for you? Why don't you do it yourself? And I thought, is that the mentality thing? You've got a player there that missed a penalty with Saka a few years ago, and he's congratulating Saka, and it's a lovely post, and he's saying you did that for us. And then I'm like, you're not even 25, mate. Like, it's great what Saka's done, but there's no reason that you couldn't do that. Like, there needs to be a mentality shift, pal. Like, yeah, it's great what Saka's done, but why haven't you done that? He's done that because he's got the mentality. He's got that because he's got the perseverance. He's got the character. You should be looking at that and going, yeah, all right, he's done it for you, but you could do it. You could do it. But of course, if we're being fair, if everybody could be Saka, we'd have a world full of Sakas. Like, if everybody could be Sir Jim Radcliffe and a billionaire, everyone would be a billionaire. We're all built differently. And this is why recruitment is so important, because you look at those 3 penalty missers, Saka, Rashford, Sancho, all 3 players really talented, all 3 players ridiculously different trajectory since then. And the winner is Saka because for whatever reason, he is wired in the right way around perseverance, character. I mean, he gets so much criticism and he's there giving it out. And, Man United, you can sit there and go, I wish we had Saka and we didn't have Sancho, but we don't. Arsenal have Saka and we have Sancho. And I think if you're Ineos, you look at that and you go, it is what it is, But what we've got to make sure is that in 5 years' time, we've got a team of Sakas. We need that mentality, and that's what recruitment's all about. Kadioglu from Fenerbahce, I think, could be a good option at left back. He would be cheap, and he's only 24. I've seen his link to him, Eric, but I think it's more of fans doing that. G-Man says, Mark, you don't get it. Please tell us. I don't think anybody has a problem with anything I've just said, but if you don't get it, please tell us. Do you think Pellistri has a future at the club? Well, he's another player that's going to go deep into the Copa. So, I don't think there'll be a shortage of interest in Pellistri. I really, really don't. And I'm just looking at the lineup. Agate obviously played, Pellistri played, and he was substituted, but he starts for Uruguay. So I think with Pellistri, we're on a win-win. You can't keep every player. Like maybe Ahmad will go. I keep telling you that. Ahmad could leave. I hope he doesn't, but he could leave. But with Pellistri, there will be, he's a Uruguayan international and they're in the semi-final of the Copa America. There's going to be people looking at him and going, we'll give you 10 million. So I think the chat was making the point Timber got cold feet after the internationals because he was worried about losing his place at the Winter World Cup. All right, Glenn. Okay. Thanks for that. And also, bad news having targets progress in tournaments as Harvey. Zirkzee is the only one with a clause if it gives clubs opportunity to hike prices with window closing, says Harvey. Is not the World Cup chat, it is international duty, says Mohammed. And Matthew says, if Wan-Bissaka goes, what do you think of being a case of potentially signing Frimpong? I've always thought Hakimi from PSG would suit Ten Hag's style. Thoughts? Well, Hakimi was on holiday with Sancho, wasn't he? I saw the picture. Maybe he could, well, he might not be saying good things about Man United, but I like Frimpong. I still think Frimpong might go. I've got a funny feeling the Frimpong will end up in the Premier League. Whether it's at Man United or not, let's wait and see. Do you think our goalkeeper has had enough time to get used to the Premier League? No, Ricky, I think it's a big season for Onana, and I think having Martinez, De Ligt in front of him would be, really helpful. Nearly 15,000 watching on a Sunday morning is absolutely incredible. In fact, we have got 15,000 watching, absolutely incredible. We've still got a couple of topics to get into. I want to talk about Luke Shaw, obviously, probably the most interactive and opinionated piece we'll do this morning. Don't forget, there are no Euros games today, so the Sunday night show will be back. It's a 7 o'clock show tonight, Sunday night show at 7 o'clock. Tune in for that. And then 8 o'clock shows are back Monday, and then it's the Euros Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, we're nearly getting back to normal. Can I just say as well, lots of good vibes this morning. We know it's Toxic Sunday on Twitter. I avoid it. But it's nice to see the chat in such a good mood. Please do subscribe, by the way, bottom right-hand corner. We're trying to get up to 1.9 million subscribers before the start of the season, so that next season, when Man United play Fulham, we can go the road to 2 million, which would be great to hit. So bottom right-hand corner, subscribe. Please do share the video and push us up to 1.9 so we can get there for the start of the season. That would be great. Also, subscribe anyway. It's a great community. You can see the chat. The amount of people who message me saying, oh, I love the fact that we have this community, the interaction. I like getting in early so I can interact with people before you go live. It's really become part of my life. People from Australia who are, living out there and, they've been a bit homesick. They have that community. People are not feeling well. It's great. It's a brilliant community. You're absolutely fantastic. So make sure you subscribe. Bottom right-hand corner. Let's talk about Luke Shaw then. God, I almost feel like I just need people to give their opinion on this. Where do you stand on the Luke Shaw situation? He came on last night for England, and I just want to double check what minute he came on at, because he basically came on as a left-sided centre-back, which started a lot of interesting conversation, to be honest with you, because long-term, that might be less demanding on his body. He came on in the 78th minute, so he played about 25 minutes, and then he played another half an hour. So he played about an hour last night, Luke Shaw, and he looked all right. I was doing a watch-along on That's Football. They're not all United fans, and they were going, look at this fat waste of space and horrible stuff like that. We don't see that, thankfully, in the United stand because, I think some people amazingly, some people don't rate Luke Shaw, but we don't get any of that nonsense. I thought he looked good. For about the first 20 minutes, I was like, is he just being thrown in? Is he going to pull his calf or something like that? But it looks like he might start against Netherlands on Wednesday, and England will be better for it. He looked okay, and I'm a big fan of Luke Shaw, and I think when we've got him in our team, we're a much better team. So yeah, positive. It was good to see him back. And obviously, when this tournament is over for England, whether it's lifting the trophy or not, he will then have another break. So by the time he hits August, he should be totally ready for a new season. It's almost the perfect scenario for Luke Shaw. He's got back. He's going to play a bit of football. He's then going to get 2 or 3 weeks recuperation, and then he's going to go into a season. So it could work quite well for him. Obviously, he's got to get through today, and hopefully there's no reaction. And obviously, he's got to get through Wednesday against the Dutch, and then hopefully a final. So he's going to play 3 games in a week. in some way, shape or form. He might not start, but he would definitely get brought on because England are crap down the left-hand side. So, look, good to see him back. From an English point of view, good to see him back. But I can read the chat, and I'm not even playing devil's advocate because even I was feeling like this week. He never should have been in that tournament. Like, he never should. I mean, Harry Maguire is back training tomorrow for Man United. Harry Maguire would have been fit for that quarter-final and wasn't allowed to go. So he never should have been taken. You know, Southgate's very lucky that England are still in the tournament because if Slovakia had knocked us out, Luke Shaw never would have played a minute and there would have been an uproar about it. It's only because England managed to get to the quarter-finals that Luke Shaw's been able to get on for 20 minutes at the end of the game. Like, he never should have gone. Like, nobody should be taking a player that's not fit to play for the quarterfinals. It's going to work out okay, fingers crossed. But yeah, even I would say he shouldn't have gone. Like, what should have happened is he wasn't fit for the FA Cup final. Go and have a month off with your family and come back for pre-season and let us manage you into a new season. That's what should have happened. But you know, we're all geniuses in hindsight, and it has actually worked out well in the end, but there is no way that Luke Shaw and Gareth Southgate can sit there and say we were right, because you weren't right. Like, you got really lucky. If England hadn't have got to a quarter-final, you wouldn't have played a minute, and you only played the last 20 minutes anyway, so it would have been better for him, and it would have been better for Man United if he hadn't gone, but only for his body, but on a personal note, it's worked perfectly for him. And I'm glad it has. I like Luke Shaw. I've always been a big fan of his. And he clearly values playing for England. Probably more than playing for Man United. I don't think he'd admit that. But obviously, he's really put a lot of effort and focus on being part of this England setup. And we know how much that England setup is a bit like a cult. You know, it amazes me how much those England players love being part of a squad that's crap. I mean, I've never seen a team with a goalkeeper kick the ball long like that since the 80s. But, you know, the players love it. And Luke Shaw obviously wants to be part of it. So I'm pleased for him. There is an element of luck there. But as long as he comes out of that tournament fit, then, you know, ultimately it's not been a complete waste of time. Rebecca says, Mainu's just so good. Nice to see Shaw back. He looked okay. We were crap, but at least we're through, and just maybe we can do it, says Rebecca. Well, look, Southgate's an absolute prat. I've had my say on that all tournament. Mainu shouldn't have been taken off, but because he's the young lad, he will take him off. I wouldn't have took Mainu off. I thought Mainu and Saka were our best players. Matthew James, thank you very much for your super chat. Should go for Barella if we make enough from sales, says Gareth. And I think that's great. Sancho post was in reference to the racism they got, says United won. Well, as I said, I think it was a nice message, regardless. My only point was, it's nice to say what he said about Saka, which is what I said. And what Saka's done is incredible. But Jadon Sancho could have done it. And that's the mentality difference, isn't it? You know, for whatever reason, Sancho can't do what Saka's done. You know, perseverance, consistency, mentality, whatever you want to call it. Sancho can't do it. And it's nice of him to say, thanks for doing that for us. But that's a player on 300 grand a week who could be doing it, who can't do it for whatever reason. And I'm not digging Sancho out for that at all. I thought it was a nice message. What I'm saying is it's a stark reminder that you've got one player who has bounced back from that and done amazingly well. And then we've got a player that just can't, for whatever reason, do it. And that's sad. But it's something Man United need to look at because, you know, there has been poor recruitment around the wrong type of players. Magnus says, I bought the book and done the competition. I hope I win so I can see you at the Goldbridge Arms, says Magnus. Really looking forward to that, by the way. As part of the book promotion, we've got a competition where we're going to invite about 30 winners to the Goldbridge Arms for a night of drinks and chats. It was going to be brilliant. Can't wait for it. So if you want to enter that competition, scan the QR code or go through the link in the description. Go to the competition section. You can buy your book there and fill out your email stuff there. It's available on Audible, worldwide, Amazon. You can get the book worldwide, Amazon. Signed copies of W.H. Smith. Cheapest copies at the moment are on Amazon. If you want a signed copy, it's WH Smith, but it's only in the UK. But there's probably something creative you could do there if you know someone in the UK who can ship it to you. Please do order it. It's out in less than 3 weeks, but there ain't that many signed copies. The competition is going to be over before the book comes out. So there's plenty of reason to pre-order it. And also, it'd be great to get it in the charts before it comes out. And, you know, be a big up yours to the mainstream because they hate it. Thanks everyone anyway. If you like the United Stand, you'll love the book. If you've been a long-term viewer, I know you'll get it because you're just brilliant at stuff like that, all the charity streams and everything. I really appreciate it. Scan that QR code and get the order in. We're back at 7 o'clock with the Sunday night show, which I'm really looking forward to. I want to delve into, well, obviously we'll delve into the headlines, but I do want to delve into the squad in relation to homegrown players and stuff like that, because some people are getting a bit worried about that, and actually I think it's quite straightforward. So we'll bring that in as well. Funky says, cheers to Mark in the chat. Yeah, cheers to everybody. Mainu's special. Can see a team like Madrid buying him, says DD. I don't think so. Harvey says, do you think Ahmad is ahead of Anthony in the pecking order? I don't know. I would say yes, but I think we're more likely to sell Ahmad than Anthony, because I think Ahmad might say I want to play first team football and want to leave. I don't think Man United want Ahmad to go, but he might say I want to go. Make sure you subscribe as well, and there was something else I was going to... any breaking news will go live today as well. Take care. Speak to you all in a bit.